This is a study of the article Astral Bodies or Doppelgangers in the book Studies in Occultism, written by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the founder of the Theosophical Society. Now, the whole article is written as questions and answers. The questions asked by Mabel Collins, who is also the well-known writer of Light on the Path and other books. So she is asking the questions and Blavatsky is answering them. Collins' first question is, great confusion exists in the mind of people about the various kinds of apparitions, wraiths, ghosts, or spirits. Ought we not to explain once and for all the meaning of these terms? You say there are various kinds of doubles. What are they? Blavatsky answers, our occult philosophy teaches us that there are three kinds of doubles, to use the word in its widest sense. First, man has his double or shadow, properly so called, around which the body of the fetus, the future man, around which the physical body of the fetus, the future man, is built. Note this part, that around the this double or the shadow, the physical body is built. The future man, the body, the fetus itself is built around this body. The imagination of the mother or an accident which affects the child will affect also the this linga sharira body. Okay, so here she calls it the astral body in this paragraph, as you see on my arrow. Later on, after Besant, Annie Besant convinced Blavatsky, the terminology used for this body is linga sharira or etheric double. It was called astral body before, but then later on they decided to use the Kamrupa or emotional body for the word astral. So until now, in some places, I have changed it, have made it into etheric body. So here she's saying that it is this etheric body which is the model on which the physical body is formed in the fetus itself. The etheric and the physical both exist before the mind is developed into action and before the Atma awakes. This occurs when the child is 7 years old, and with it comes the responsibility attaching to a conscious, sentient being. So, until the age of 7, the child is not even a conscious, sentient being. It has no karma, because it is whatever action it is doing subconsciously, and it is no longer have does not have any responsibility. But after the age of 7, its atma has now got attached to the physical body and it has responsibility. Then she says, this double is born with man, dies with him, can never separate itself far from the body during life, and though surviving him, it disintegrates pari passu with the corpse. So here she says that it is born with him, it dies with him, and it can never separate itself from him. Now, this body has got several names. One name, which we have just given, is etheric double. Second is linga sharira, given by the Hindu terminology. Third is pranic body. All of these are same body. The pranic body, the etheric double, the linga sharira. These are all names for the same body. This is an electromagnetic body, 1.5 inches above our body and goes in and out of our body, made up of electromagnetic material, that is subatomic material, and it is a model body based on which is formed before even the physical body is formed, and it is a model on which the physical body takes shape. It lives with it, it is attached to it, it lives with it, and let us see what happens when it dies. She says this double is born with a man, dies with him, and can never separate itself from the body during life. And though surviving him, so although the physical body dies, although it survives him for a bit, it disintegrates with the corpse. So as per our literature, within 36 hours of the physical body, the body dying, this linga sharira also dies. It is this which is sometimes seen over the graves like a luminous figure of the man that was. during certain atmospheric conditions. So in places where they bury the body, they sometimes in certain foggy conditions, in certain weather conditions, they see this physical form in exact same shape as the physical form of the man that was. That's because they are seeing, people are seeing the linga sharira of the body. From its physical aspect, during life, man's vital double. So there's another term she has used for the same body. From its physical aspect, it is during life, man's vital double. And after that, only the gases given out from the decaying body. But as regards its origin and essence, it is something more. This double is what we have agreed to call Linga Sharira, but which I propose to call for greater convenience protean or plastic body. So apart from all the names that we have come across for this body, Blavatsky proposes to call it protean or plastic body. Now, Mabel Collin asks, why protean or plastic? So Blavatsky answers, protean because it can assume all forms. That protean means shape shifting. So protean because it can assume all forms. For example, the shepherd magicians whom popular rumor accuses, perhaps not without some reason, of being werewolves and mediums in cabinets, whose own plastic bodies play the part of materialized grandmothers and John Kings. So here she's talking about these mediums who would actually produce forms, and who the medium would complain is some dead grandmother or some John King who was one spirit who was coming in many of these mediums and their seance rooms. So this is about the time when in the 1800 late 1800s, after the mid 1800s, when the seance practice of mediums and seance, a lot of people were going to such rooms because there was a lot of death, a lot of wars were taking place, many youngsters were dying, and many such people were looking for their own dead people. They wanted some communication with their newly dead people, so people were going to these seance rooms to get communication. It was in fact all that was called spirituality at that time. But really that myth of what that spirituality was broken by the Theosophical Society, by Blavatsky and her teachings, that none of them were actually contacting the spirit of the person gone, but some remnants of what was left behind by the soul who had moved to other planes, or not even the same soul, but some other souls pretending to be the dead person were coming in these seance rooms. So here she explains that not even that, the body of the medium itself, the etheric double part of the body of the medium itself, is being projected by the medium to form a body of some deceased person. So deceased grandmother or John King, who was one spirit who was visiting many seance rooms. So that is what she's saying here. That is why she says it's a protean body. It can shape shift, it can change its shape. Otherwise, why the invariable custom of the dear departed angels to come out but little further than the arm's length than the medium, whether entranced or not? So, if this was not the case, that the mediums are projecting their own etheric body, why do these kind of ghost like bodies come just one arm's length away? That is just 2.5 feet away from the body of the medium, because the medium's own this etheric body cannot go too far away from the physical body, so it stays near the physical body of the medium, but is projected out just near to the medium. So why would it be, if most of these ghosts are seen so close, standing so close to the medium, not far away? Mind, I do not deny at all foreign influences in this kind of phenomena, but I do affirm that foreign interference is rare and that the materialized form is always that of the medium's etheric or protean body. So she says that it could be that some real spirits are coming and they are there, but that is very rare, she says. Some foreign influence. That is very, very rare. What really, later on, she'll go on to say that it is possible for the adepts to project their bodies in rooms like this. That is what she may be referring to, foreign influence here. But she says that that is very rare. What is all the time happening is the medium is projecting his his or her own etheric body, pretending to be the ghost of some other body, some other dead person. So this is why Blavatsky calls it the protean or plastic body. Then we go on to the second body, which she mentioned in the beginning that there are three bodies which can be called doubles. So one is was the Linga Sharira. Let's look at what is the second body. Mabel Collins asks, what but shall we not be asked what difference there is between the Mayavi and Kamarupa, or as you propose to call them, the dream body and the spook? Blavatsky. Most likely, and we shall answer, in addition to what has been said, that the thought power or aspect of the Mayavi or illusion body merges after death entirely into the causal body or the conscious thinking ego. The animal elements or power of desire of the dream body, absorbing after death that which it has collected through its insatiable desire to live during life, that is all the astral vitality as well as all the impressions of its material acts and thoughts while it lived in the possession of the body, forms the spook or kamarupa. Our theosophists know well enough that after death, the higher manas unites with the monad and passes into devachan, while the dregs of the lower manas or animal body mind go to form this spook. This has life in it, but hardly any consciousness, except as it were by proxy, when it is drawn into the current of a medium. So, here, if you go back to this constitution of the higher self, which is the earlier article I have studied in this book, Studies in Occultism, you will know that Theosophy says there are a sevenfold body. And here she's saying the second body she's talking about is the body which is separates itself from the both the physical and linga sharira which now are on earth and have died. The second body is the kama rupa body, which is consisting of all our desires, our lower thoughts, which is made up of our lower thoughts and desires, and that also separates itself from the higher mind, the atma buddhi manas, the higher mind, the buddhic component, and an atma. It separates itself from both and forms this kama rupa or ghost or spook body, which often is drawn into seances. So the higher component of the dead person, which is the higher mind, has moved on to the heavenly plane, which is called devachan, and it is this other body which is left behind, which is consisting of its desires and thoughts, which is left in this kama rupa or lower plane level, and that is closer to earth, and which is drawn by the seances, by the mediums. So this is the second body, which is also called the kama rupa body. And you have finally the third body, which is the karmic or causal body. Now, here, Mabel Collin asks, and the third is the true ego, called in the East by a name meaning causal body, by which in the Trans-Himalayan schools is called the karmic body, which is the same. So either you can call it the karmic body or the causal body. So far we've got two bodies. One is the Linga Sharira body, which is the etheric double, close to the physical body. Second is the Kamarupa body, which is the emotional and lower mental part of us. Third is the true ego or the karmic or causal body. For then let's read further. For karma or action is the cause which produces incessant births or reincarnations. It is not the monad, nor is it manas proper, but is in a way indissolubly connected with and a compound of the monad and manas in Devachan. So this body is not the Atma itself, but it is still connected to both the Atma, that is the monad, and the higher mind. And it is the body which goes to the heavenly plane or Devachan. So now we have covered the three bodies. So Mabel Collin then asks, then there are three doubles. Blavatsky says, if you call the Christian and other trinities three gods, then there are three doubles. But in truth, there is only one under three aspects or phases. The most material portion disappearing with the body. So the most material portion is the physical body and the Linga Sharira. Linga Sharira is also made up of subatomic matter, so it is also matter of a form. But the Kamarupa body and this causal body are not made up of matter as we know it on earth. It is not matter of the sort that we can recognize on earth, but the other two are the most material. So they also disappear with the body, that is within 36 hours of the physical body, as I mentioned earlier. The middle one surviving both as an independent but temporary unit in the land of shadows. So by that she means the Kamarupa body, which stays in the Kamaluka for a while as a independent unit. And the third, immortal throughout the Manavantra unless Nirvana puts an end to it before it. So basically, here she says the third body, which is our causal body, is immortal for this Manavantra. You can look at my videos on what is meant by Manavantra. It is the period of time when there is life, and then there is Pralaya, which is the end. So Pralaya and Manavantra are opposites of each other. So during Manavantra, that causal body, the same causal body, will be moving through thousands of incarnations, learning and growing. Unless it stops doing this incarnation work, if it achieves nirvana before, that is, if it has achieved its highest potential already much before the manavantra is over, then it will not no longer do this whole business of creating a physical body and kamarupa body and going through the whole process of birth and death. So unless nirvana comes before, it will go on, it is immortal until this manavantra, which is billions of years. For example, the Manavantra of this solar system, the period in which this solar system is going to be alive or working, is considered to be 3 lakh 11,000 billion years. 3 lakh 11,000 billion years, as per this philosophy. So that is how long the Manavantra will be, and that is how long our causal body will be there, and we will go on taking births unless we put an end to it through our own efforts of a, a quicker nirvana. So let's look at what further Blavatsky says on all this. She says, the mind is dual in its potentiality. It is physical and metaphysical. That is, the lower part of it is the lower mind is physical and the higher mind is metaphysical. The higher part of the mind is connected with the spiritual soul or buddhi. The higher part of the mind is connected with the spiritual soul or buddhi. The lower with the animal soul or karma principle, which is the desirous principle. So if we are always drawn to everything in the world by our desires, we are working through our lower mind. The higher mind is the one which is working on the Buddhic principle. In the Buddhic principle, we cannot work as a single unit. When we think in the Buddhic principle, we will think of what is good for the other also. In that, the other is also included. Everyone is included. So we don't work with just protecting or taking care of this lower self. We take care of everybody in that when we function from that Buddhic principle. So that is the difference between thinking in these two different bodies of the lower mind and the higher mind. Now let's read further. There are persons who never think with the higher faculties of their mind at all. Those who do are the mind those who do so are the minority and are thus in a way beyond, if not above, the average of humankind. These will think even upon ordinary matters on that higher plane. So very few people think like that. Think from the other person's viewpoint, from the viewpoint of fairness and justice and truth, none of us can claim that we always think in that way. So much of our thoughts arises from our very selfish, self-centered thinking, protecting this lower self. The idiosyncrasy of the person determines in which principle of the mind the thinking is done, as also the faculties of a preceding life, and sometimes a hereditary of the physical. So there are many causes for why the choice is made between this lower mind or higher mind. She says the reasons might be because of past life tendencies, or because of the heredity, the kind of body we have inherited, which draws so much attention to the lower mind, or uh, or the of the or what else is there? Yeah, basically these two things, either because of past life tendencies or because of the hereditary of the physical body, we may choose the lower principle or the higher principle. This is why it is so very difficult for a materialist, the metaphysical portion of whose brain is almost atrophied, to raise himself, or for one who's naturally spiritually minded to descend to the level of matter of fact, vulgar thought, optimism of vulgar thought. So it is very difficult to change somebody who's completely materialistic, whose entire thinking is self-centered and around life on earth. Whereas those who are spiritual minded, who know there is life beyond earth, who know that there can be numerous ways of living this life, who know that there has to be survival for everybody and not just for this one self, who think in that way, the difference between the two people are so much that it's very difficult to convert somebody who's thinking with this lower mind into someone into who thinks with the higher mind. This transformation is literally the whole work of the Theosophical Society and any spiritual body. The movement from a very selfish, self-centered way of being to an all-centered way of being. So this is our own struggle, our own work, and the work of any spiritual person. Then the last sentence in this para is optimism and pessimism depend on it also in a great measure. So you have to see that if you're an optimistic person, maybe you are working from that higher plane person. And if you're pessimistic, you're working at the lower plane person. So convert yourself into having hope always, having optimism for life. Optimism is a zeal, optimism, positivity, all are qualities of the higher mind. You have to, even if you have to force yourself, develop this optimism inside you. Again, Mabel Collin asks, but the habit of thinking in the higher mind can be developed. Else, there would be no hope for persons who wish to alter their lives and raise themselves. And that this is possible must be true, or there would be no hope for the world. A beautiful question. And Blavatsky answers, certainly it can be developed, but only with great difficulty, a firm determination, and through much self sacrifice. But it is comparatively easy for those who are born with the gift. Why is it that one person sees poetry in a cabbage or a pig with her little ones, while another will perceive in the loftiest things only the lowest and most material aspect, will laugh at the music of the spheres and ridicule the most sublime conceptions and philosophies? The difference depends simply on the innate power of the mind to think on the higher or on the lower plane with the astral or the physical brain. Great intellectual powers are often no proof but are impediments to spiritual and right conceptions. Witness most of the great men of science. We must rather pity than blame them. So here Blavatsky is clearly saying that having intellectual power, a great education, ability to think with great clarity on various things does not make them spiritual, does not give them the right conception of life, does not give them the correct philosophy, because they are blind to the real truths of life. For example, the fact that we are all one, that all these human beings which we see around everywhere, all are connected to us and all are our brothers and sisters. How can we see this truth if we are just super educated, intellectual, etc.? We cannot see it. So here she says that there are this constant division in our mind, the lower mind and the higher mind, and it's only with great difficulty and firm determination and self-sacrificing this lower mind and its desires and its wishes and all its dreams. You have to sacrifice all of that to live in that higher plane, so higher mind level. Now let's look at the next question. Mabel Collins asks, but how is it that the person who thinks on the higher plane produces more perfect and more potential images and objective forms by his thought? So she's asking, how is it that those who are thinking with this higher mind produces a more perfect and potential images with their thought? So HPB denies this. She says, not necessary that person alone, but all who are generally sensitives. The person who's endowed with this faculty of thinking about even the most trifling things from the higher plane of thought has, by virtue of that gift which he possesses, a plastic power of formation, so to say, in his very imagination. So those, she says that those who are thinking from that higher plane always develop a power of actually creating with their thought certain things. They can create with their imagination. Whatever, now let's continue. Whatever such a person may think about, his thought will be so far more intense than the thought of an ordinary person, that by this very intensity it obtains the power of creation. Science has established the fact that thought is an energy. This energy in its action disturbs the atoms of the astral atmosphere around us. I already told you the rays of thought have the same potential for producing forms in the astral atmosphere as the sun rays have with regard to a lens. Every thought so evolved with energy from the brain creates null and volens a shape. So here this is all about thought, how thoughts, whether they are of the lower or higher, create forms. Now here she says here talking only about the higher form of people who are living from the higher plane. They in fact can develop very, very strong shapes and forms because of the fact that they are living in that higher plane. And later on she says that science has established that thought is a kind of energy, and it is a creative energy, and it comes, that energy is given out by our brain and it creates a shape in the astral atmosphere. The astral is the Kamalokic or Kamarupic atmosphere, the emotional atmosphere around us. In that atmosphere around us, we create these thought forms or thought shapes. That is what this answer is saying. Then Mabel Collins asks, is that shape absolutely unconscious? Blavatsky answers, perfectly unconscious, unless it is the creation of an adept who has a preconceived object in giving it consciousness, or rather in sending along with it enough of his will and intelligence to cause it to appear conscious. This ought to make us more cautious about our thoughts. But the wide distinction that obtains between the adept in this matter and the ordinary man must be borne in mind. So basically, Mabel Collins asks that the shapes that are formed by our thoughts, are they conscious or unconscious? So Blavatsky says they are normally unconscious. They do not have an intelligence of their own. They are just floating around forms of thought that are going around and can be caught by anybody or seen by anybody or felt by anybody else who's sensitive. But an adept, that is someone who's been initiated, who knows how to work in higher planes, who has crossed the boundaries of a certain progress of the human nature, maybe the first, second, third, which initiations he has crossed. An adept is actually, I think, the fifth initiation. But an adept can create such a thought and also give it life as with his willpower. It can give it life and make it feel conscious. But there is such a huge difference between. So there's a huge difference between the uh, thought form which is created the by an ordinary man, and then one which is created by an adept. Then, but the ordinary man, uh, the adept may at his will uses Mayavi Rupa. So this form which the adept makes with his thought is called the Mayavi Rupa, and he can use it with his will. But the ordinary man does not, except in very rare cases. It is called Mayavi Rupa because it is a form or illusion created for use in this particular instance, and it has quite enough of the adept's mind in it to accomplish its purpose. The ordinary man merely creates a thought image whose properties and powers are at the time wholly unknown to him. So, an ordinary man creates thoughts which are totally which makes forms which he does not understand, nor can he control it, nor does he know what to do with it. He doesn't even know it exists. Whereas the thought form that is created by an adept, which is called Mayavi Rupa, the adept knows what to do with it and has a purpose to build it. People Colin asks, then it is very necessary for a person of any amount of intelligence and psychic power to attend to his thoughts. So you have to be cautious. Isn't it necessary for us to be cautious about what type of thoughts we are creating with our imagination and mind? Blavatsky answers, certainly, for each thought has a shape which borrows the appearance of the man engaged in the action of which he thought. Otherwise, how can clairvoyants see in your aura your past and present? What they see is a passing panorama of yourself represented in successive actions by your own thoughts. You ask me if we are punished by our thoughts. Not for all, for some are stillborn, but for the others, those which we call silent but potential thought, yes, we are punished by our own thoughts. Take an extreme case, such as that of a person who is so wicked as to wish the death of another. Unless the evil wisher is a dukpa, a high adept in black magic, in which case karma is delayed, such a wish only comes back to roost. So here she's saying that our thoughts are in our aura, and all that we have thought can be seen by somebody who is clairvoyant in your own aura. So that's how a clairvoyant is able to see your past and your potential future. And about this, I have made a study of there is one called The Personal Life by Dora Kunz. uh, you can check that out. The Personal Aura, I think that name of the book. I have made a study of this in my channel. You can take a look at how our thoughts can be present in our aura. How Dora Kunz, who was a clairvoyant, could see these thoughts in the aura of people, and she had them drawn. So this ends it. Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you are following so far. Thank you.